Okay, quick music disclaimer here. I do not own the rights to this music, which belongs to the rightful owner, who is the intoxicating mind of Dr. Frankenstein. So he made my intro and my outro, and I hope you guys enjoy. Check them out on Spotify and YouTube, and no copyright infringement is intended. Have a good day.
A clear choice of good versus evil, of right versus wrong.
Twisted Tales.
Welcome back, folks. Thanks for tuning back in. I hope everybody had a wicked weekend here, so those are way too fucking short lately, but what do you do? Now, this next episode here, it's viewer requested for my friend Ursula. And this one's about her best friend, Kathleen MacVicar. Now, Kathleen was from back home, just like most of us are. She was from Glace Bay, Nova Scotia, and she was born February 23rd, 1982. Now, just a little about Glace Bay here, just for like a second here. There's tons of things to do over there, like there's the Glace Bay Heritage Museum on McKean Street, and it's also known as a coal mining town, or, well, mostly was back in the decline back in the 60s there, give or take. So up until that point, it's wicked prosperous, but they more so depend on, like, the fishing industry these days anyway. Now, Kathleen was a very awesome person, and as I mentioned before, her best friend was Ursula. Now, they grew up together, they went to school, and they actually ended up in the same homeroom when they were in grade 7. Now, both did well in school, they had fun, they went to parties, pretty much inseparable growing up, right? Now, after the school years, Kathleen decided on moving to Ontario just to spend some time with her aunt and uncle. Now, they lived on a military base in Trenton, Ontario. This is up in Kinty West. Now, this kind of operates as a Canadian Air Force base. It's actually the largest Air Force base in Canada. So, on her travels up there with her aunt and uncle, the Fords, now, she got to working at a call center company called Stream. While up in Ontario, she met another friend named Tanya Fusco. Now, they took the training course up in Belleville. Now, this would be at the call center. So Tanya remembers, like, all her jokes and her sense of humor. Kathleen was just a pleasure to work with. Now, after completing training together, the two became very close friends. Now, Tanya was pregnant at the time, and she was wicked overjoyed for Kathleen to meet her baby. So Kathleen had always told her it was going to be a girl, and she was just very sure of that. But, unfortunately, that didn't get to happen. Kathleen, 19 at the time, she went missing on June 13th, 2001, from the CFB Trenton, and her body was found some 3 days later in a wooded area by the base. Now, Tanya's baby girl had been born 3 months after Kathleen's body was found. Her body was found by a groundskeeper for the National Defense on June 15th, 2001. This was a wooded area around the home of the 8-wing barracks. She was sexually assaulted and stabbed numerous times. It was just an out-of-nowhere crime, like totally out of pocket, especially to her family. Like, her mom literally spoke to her on June 13th. Now, Kathleen was just excited about her upcoming high school graduation, and that was the last time the two spoke. And then 2 days later, Cape Breton police were knocking at her door to inform her about her daughter. Now, the last time Kathleen was seen was June 13th. She was leaving one of her friend's houses on the southwest side of Trenton around 10:30 p.m. Ontario Provincial Police were called on the scene, and along with military police, because they were now investigating the crime as it happened on the Army base. Now, this investigation included an inspector by the name of Bob Belair. Now, the sidewalk that she was traveling on was poorly lit, or I guess dim, I should say, and the road had little traffic, and there wasn't much for pedestrians. It was roughly a 2-kilometer walk from the base. the wooded area she was found in wasn't huge or anything either. Like, it was more like a thoroughfare. So, what's that, you might ask? It's like a path that forms a route into two places. So, I apologize for the old-ass term there. In short, it's just a public road that goes from point A to point B. As the investigation went on, police not figuring out much. They did kind of figure out that the crime was committed in that general area, and it was highly unlikely that her murder occurred elsewhere or that the dumping of her body was in that area. Information gathered by the police stated that her killer had kind of laid in wait, most likely in the bushes or behind some trees, and he kept quiet. He snuck up behind her, and she didn't notice him until it was too late, and then he dragged her off into the wooded area. Now, he did this just so it would be out of sight from the overhead streetlights and the nearby houses and barracks and shit. And it was just random. So, I really hope that she at least fought back at some point. I mean, just fucking terrible. Now, the police investigation there, they knew like a couple things. Mainly that she was from Cape Breton, and that she had family up here and down home. And she was believed to be walking around Middleton Park, where she'd been discovered. And even with the police searching the area for clues around Middleton Park and south of Curtis Road, they came up empty-handed. They were searching around the base, the barracks, and it gave them fuck all for evidence too. And this is kind of where like Ursula kind of came in. Like, she mentioned to me that she was close enough around a public area that if she had screamed or cried out for help or anything like that, she could have easily been heard. Well, I mean, unless knocked unconscious, or like if her mouth was covered or gagged or whatever, or even if there were high winds that night, like, you'd have to factor in the wind velocity. If the wind had been traveling upward, there could have been a possibility of her being heard, because the flow of air would make those screams louder, being against the air. And if sent downwind, the contrast to that would be much quieter. By this time, the case was slowing down. Police didn't really have much evidence to go off of, and all the family could do was just sit around and wait for answers. Shortly after her death, a vigil was held for Kathleen. Now, this took place at Our Lady Peace St. Clement, Astra Chapel. Say that 10 times fast. Now, this took place till around sunset. So there was a ton of family members there, even a huge crowd from the community. Now, they had walked down from the church, south on the Army Base Road, east on Curtis Road, and they went to where her body was found. There's now a white cross located in the area where she'd been located on the western edge there. Now, this would be the first time that most of the family members had shown up at this area, so I mean, you can just imagine what a wicked emotional time for everybody involved that was, right? And with nothing to go on, police kind of got fancy after this, like, after not having much to go off of. So they made a team of like 6 Ontario Provincial Police members and an investigator. Now, they labeled this bad boy Project Shadow, but this too crashed and fucking burned. I mean, it didn't go anywhere. And then years went on. And it's just weird that nothing really was looked into. Like, the fact that she'd been sexually assaulted, I mean, that could have been looked at closer too. I mean, sometimes I guess we just get shitty police work done. And the military, like, they also weren't much assistance, but they reassured Kathleen's mother, Colleen, that it was being looked into. And eventually the police made a public announcement that they were seeking the public's assistance. Now, they were going to ask for help from the people around the Trenton area, just to see if anybody recalled anything or might remember something that happened the night in question. And I just want to intertwine here for a sec with this case, and a case that I covered back on Colonel Russell Williams. Now, when 2010 hit, this guy, like, became a huge public spotlight. And more so in a bad way. Like, he was a very well-respected member of the Canadian Forces, and he was arrested for some pretty out there and fucking weird sexual crimes. Funny thing is here, the colonel had been posted at the Trenton Air Base and other areas like Shearwater, Nova Scotia back home. Now, it's more so the timeline and the nature of these crimes that made Colleen, Catherine's mother, kind of think, hey, maybe this guy could have some involvement or done something around that time. Now, this guy was an army officer. He was charged with sex crimes. This was a sex crime, and it happened at an army base. I mean, it was just something that needed to be looked into. Now, there was a woman that was murdered by Williams in the Tweed, Ontario area. Now, Tweed isn't that far from Trenton. It's pretty much just a hop, skip, and a jump away. So police wanted to compare details to both cases and backtrack to Kathleen's case. And even the distance between Tweed and Trenton, it's like fucking 58 kilometers. So roughly a 44-minute drive. And plus the two unsolved cases back in Shearwater, Nova Scotia, where Williams was stationed. I mean, they also needed to be questioned too. And all in all, like, that makes 3 cases. And the attention of the Williams case was very publicized. So police had mainly focused on the charges that Williams was currently charged with. So to me, it kind of seems that people forgot about this case. It wasn't something that, like, that just got swept under the rug or whatever. I mean, they didn't have the time to look into the 3 cold cases or care enough to do a proper procedure on the matter. And what time they did put into it, if any, wasn't much. Now, Williams was ruled out as a suspect in the 2001 death of Kathleen. And if it weren't for the Williams case, I doubt that they would have even looked back into this case at all. And a phone number was offered up for info on the case here. This goes to the Quinte West detachment. That's 613-392-3561. There was a statement made from Colleen about the police work done on here, and it goes, quote, "Until police tell me that without a shadow of a doubt that this is who they suspect killed Kathleen, then I'm just going to have to wait and see. I'm not going to get my hopes up here." And even with Kathleen being from back home, like, you'd think there'd be more coverage on this case between, like, Ontario and Glace Bay and whatever, right? But honestly, like, the details in this are really fucking slim. And the articles on this, some of them just are repeats, whatever, but you do what you can, I guess, right? And even a spokesperson with the Cape Breton Regional Police, her name was Desiree Vasallo, she'd mentioned that they haven't received any contact from the Ontario Provincial Police regarding the murder of MacVicar. I mean, minus the notifying of the family at the very beginning. Now, there was tons of support from back home, too. Like, the community was just in a shock. The Tim Hortons on McKean Street that she worked at, they had planted an oak tree and made a remembrance plaque at the Two Rivers Wildlife Park. Now that says, "In loving memory of Kathleen MacVicar, February 23rd, 1982 to June 15th, 2001, from staff of McKean Street, Tim Hortons." Also says, "Dance with the Angels." Even in the store, there was a sign made up that said the same thing. And this was just to honor her memory. And today, Kathleen's case is still unsolved. And to the family, I just want to say, like, I hope this episode helps in some way. And this one here, folks, is, like I said, it was one of the harder ones to gain information for. There was a $75,000 reward offered up during the course of all this, too. If this led to an arrest of the person or persons involved in her murder, it would then be granted. Now, this would be granted by the Minister of the Community, Safety and Corrections Service for the province of Ontario, and the Commissioner of the Ontario Provincial Police Department. Now, over the years, police had suspects, but with lack of evidence, they couldn't press charges. At one point, they even refused to release a photograph to the public. And to this, like, it kind of gained them a ton of criticism. Even politicians for the city said that by not releasing the photograph, that police were just wasting time. And you know what? That couldn't be farther from the fucking truth. There was also a profile made up by the behavioral science section. Now, they were searching for a man with violent outbursts, and he may be living near Trenton. Initially a Caucasian male between ages 22 and 28. He acted alone, and he may live within walking distance of the crime. The murder weapon was never found, and that's pretty much a wrap here. I mean, I do hope that this episode gets something out there at least. I want to thank Ursula for sure about the help with this case. Like, you're amazing, my friend. Thank you. And sharing gets cases out there. Like, you always get good and bad comments online with that, though. I mean, some people think, like, you're just there to promote shit, but I mean, like, spreading awareness and sharing shit is how you get people that never heard about cases listening, and even people that might have information, like, they might speak up someday, right? Like, I don't know, promoting, whatever. I can do that shit on my own. Like, I can do that, and I get by with a little help from my friends on that, so. Even with the previous cases that I've done, some, but not all, they've actually gotten a couple leads, like, because of episodes that I've covered with them. And it might not be a big detail or anything, or what have you, but I mean, it's something that, maybe could potentially lead somewhere. I mean, that's a gift on its fucking own right there. And I know that I'm no professional at this, but I have gotten better, slightly, maybe, who knows. But I want to thank you guys for sticking with me, and I have a lot of upcoming episodes for you guys too, so Ursula, thank you very much for this case too. I mean, I'm really glad I met you guys, and I really hope I covered everything in this. And like I said, this is one of the more difficult ones, but what do? You just work with what you got, right? Oh, and last thing here, the military base that she was staying at, they had a memorial service in her honor, with the parents' blessing, of course. And this was organized by social workers at the Military Family Resource Center. And Kathleen was cremated in her prom gown. And she's now home with her parents. Now, I'm going to also add to the details of the Kathleen's page here. Now, Ursula started this a little ways back, and I'm going to put this in the details of the episode description. And you can also reference this case number here if you have any info, if you want to call or whatever. Now, this will go to the Criminal Investigators Branch of the Ontario Police Department. That number is 1-888-310-1122. And, thanks for helping me with some key points to this case. So stay safe, everyone, and thanks for tuning back in. That's all I got.
Twisted Tales.